Hi, Marie here from Pottery Crafters. In the last video, I showed you these 6 new Flux Glazes from Amaco that I brushed on my planters. So in this video, I'll show you these same Flux Glazes on textured, flat, and smooth surfaces. All the supplies used in this video are listed for you in the show notes below. Here are a few important tips before you start glazing. Make sure your hands are clean and dry, or wear gloves. Gloves protect your pottery if your hands get oily. I mainly wear them to keep my hands from drying out when I'm glazing. Wash your bisqueware with a clean damp sponge to ensure the glaze bonds nicely to your piece. It's best to apply wax resist to the bottom of your bisqueware. This makes it much easier to get any glaze off the bottom so the pottery doesn't stick to your shelf. Mix your glazes well. I use this drink mixer. It gets to the bottom of the Amaco glaze jars, which is a big plus. If the glazes have been used, I put them through a strainer to remove any clumps or debris, except for the moss mist and the river birch, because they contain crystals. All of the pottery was made with Amaco No. 11 stoneware white clay. Let's start glazing. The first Flux glaze is Midnight Run. I'll brush 3 coats on this spoon rest to see how the glaze looks on a flat surface. The first coat is always the hardest because the bisqueware absorbs the glaze. After you've applied the first coat of glaze, let it dry completely before applying the second coat. Be careful not to apply too much glaze. Let the second coat dry and apply the third coat. I like putting a swirl on my spoon rest for a little texture. Let this dry. Pour the glaze inside the mug. Place the bowl over the mug. Flip the bowl over and allow the glaze to flow out of the mug. Keep the mug upside down and pour the glaze on the handle and on the outside of the mug. This way, the glaze doesn't pool at the base of the mug. Using a plastic lid, I keep the mug upside down and place it on the lid for a few minutes to let any extra glaze drip off. Brush 1 coat in the trimmed area on the bottom of the mug. Remove the mug from the plastic, flip it upright, and let it dry. I'll do the same with this textured mug. Pour the glaze on the same way. I pour glaze on whenever I can, especially with mugs, unless I want to create a different look with brushing the glaze on. When pouring on brushable glazes, the glaze should be the consistency of heavy cream, so you may have to add a small amount of distilled water. Put them in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how they turned out. Well, the Midnight Run Flux Glaze really shows a distinct color difference on the spoon rest, and also the textured surface on the mug. I actually did 2 mugs and they both turned out similar. The glaze is lighter where it pools, and darker where the glaze breaks on the edges of the textured surface. I really like the contrast of the colors. The blue-gray color is subtle and striking, adding depth and dimension to the mug and the spoon rest. The inside of these mugs are beautiful, a soft, pleasing look while you're drinking. I love the soft, smooth blue-gray denim look it creates. This smooth mug looks just like the planter in the last video, where I applied 1 coat on the bottom of the mugs. The color looks almost like a dark golden brown. Nice contrast. Overall, I love the look of this glaze on the smooth and textured surfaces. Let's check out the next glaze. The second Flux glaze is Moss Mist. I'm brushing 3 coats on this spoon rest. Nice, smooth, and even brush strokes. Let it dry and apply a second coat. The second coat is so much easier to apply. Let it dry and apply a third coat. I think these spoon rests are easy to make. I have a video on how to make them in my beginner pottery wheel projects. I left the link for you in the show notes below. Set this aside and glaze the smooth mug. Pour the glaze on the inside, flip it over and pour the glaze on the outside. Try to keep the glaze flowing onto the mug as evenly as you can. Place the mug upside down on the plastic so I get no glaze marks dripping down. I'll do the same with this textured mug. Some potters say you waste more glaze. I don't think I'm wasting that much glaze. I think of it as how much time I'm saving by pouring. Pouring is a lot faster for me than brushing. Let this dry and put them in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see the final results. This flux glaze is beautiful on all 3 pieces. The moss mist creates a beautiful look on the flat surface. I like how the glaze breaks over the edges of the swirl. You can see the peachy hue on the spoon rest where it pools between the swirls. The look is almost transparent. I love the look that the moss mist created on the textured surface. The glaze breaks over the edges of these marks and it looks almost transparent. A nice added depth to this mug. This glaze looks great all by itself. The inside of both of these mugs looks really cool. A nice visual when you're drinking. The smooth mug also turned out beautifully. The green spots flowed down more on the top of this mug. It's gorgeous. I love the colors that this glaze produces. With one coat on the bottom, this moss mist has that light peachy hue to it. I think it would look good just applying one coat to your pottery. The look that the moss mist creates on these pieces creates a unique visual effect. Let's check out the next glaze. The third flux glaze is Honeydew. I'll start by brushing 3 coats on the flat surface of this spoon rest. Let the glaze dry and apply a second coat. I'll be interested to see how this glaze looks on the spoon rest. Apply one more coat. Nice and even brush strokes. Set it aside and let it dry. Now glaze the smooth mug. In the last video, I applied this honeydew glaze on light brown clay. It'll be interesting to see how the glaze looks on this stoneware white clay. If you missed the last video on these 6 flux glazes, I left the link for you below in the show notes and on the end screen. Let it dry. Now pour the glaze on the textured mug. I made this mug with sodium silicate to create the texture. Make sure the glaze goes into the cracks that the sodium silicate created. Brush one coat on the bottom of the mug. Let this dry and put them in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how they turned out. There's a nice contrast in the texture of the spoon rest. The glaze looks great on the flat surface and lighter on the edges of the swirl. Beautiful pale green color where the glaze pooled. I like how the pale green shows in the cracks from the sodium silicate. It's almost transparent on the raised surface, but with a touch of light green. I like the one layer of the honeydew on the bottom. Also a transparent look with a little bit of almost yellow. The inside of both of these mugs are really nice. Beautiful shimmery green color. I couldn't put any glaze on the bottom of this mug because it's not trimmed properly to be glazed. This glaze is a beautiful shimmery light green on the smooth mug. And on the top where the glaze is thicker, it does have a nice peachy hue. The effect of this glaze adds depth and character to these pottery pieces. I love the color of this Honeydew Flux glaze on this white clay. Let's check out the next glaze. The fourth Flux glaze is River Birch. I'll start with the spoon rest again. Apply the glaze lightly so the crystals can be distributed more evenly. Let the glaze dry and apply a second coat. Nice, smooth, even brush strokes. Let this dry and apply a third coat of the River Birch. The crystals in this glaze do create a nice effect. Set this aside and pour the glaze on the smooth creamer I made. Pour as evenly as you can. Let this dry. Now pour the glaze on this textured mug. In my next video, I'll be exploring different glaze combinations by layering these flux glazes with other Amaco glazes. I hope to create unique and interesting effects to give you more glazing ideas. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when the next video comes out. Let this dry and put them in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how they turned out. The River Birch is such a unique glaze. You can see the peachy hue where the glaze is thicker on the spoon rest. This glaze is so cool looking because it creates these runny dark streaks that remind me of a birch tree. This effect does add a feel of nature to any piece. I really like the glaze on the inside of this creamer and the inside of this mug. A nice visual when you're drinking from this mug. One coat on the bottom created a peachy color, and the crystals are small specks. I like that look. I like the spoon rest, creamer, and textured mug. I think this little set turned out great. Let's check out the next glaze. The fifth flux glaze is Cirrus Flow. For this one, I'm going to use a ring holder because I ran out of spoon rests. Don't apply too much pressure to the brush. Let the glaze glide off the brush. Let dry and apply a second coat. If I load up the brush too much, the glaze will pool in the ring holder. Let dry and apply a third coat. Ring holders are fun to make. I have a video and an article on my Pottery Crafters website that gives you a step-by-step guide on how to make them. I left the link for you below in the show notes. Let it dry and glaze the smooth mug. After you flip the mug over, make sure you keep it upside down so the glaze doesn't pool at the bottom. This technique has worked well for me. Let it dry. Now glaze the textured mug. In the last video, I glazed this color on red clay. I'm looking forward to seeing it on white clay. Let this dry and put them in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how the Cirrus Flow turned out. The Cirrus Flow is beautiful on this ring holder. I like how the blue color of the glaze interacts with the textured surface. The inside of these mugs are beautiful, nice smooth finish. I'm loving the transparency of the one coat on the bottom of these mugs. The Cirrus Flow is just beautiful on this white clay. It has a shimmery light blue look to it. I'm just loving the color. I'm looking forward to seeing how this glaze interacts with other glazes. Let's check out the next glaze. The sixth glaze is Flux Blossom. The flat surface I'm using for this glaze is a lid with a gallery for mugs. I'm brushing on 3 coats, the same as the last 5. Let dry and apply a second coat. I like these lids. They keep your drink warm, and if you're a tea drinker, you can place a tea bag on the inside of the lid. Let dry and apply one more coat. I have a video that shows how you make a mug with a gallery lid in my beginner pottery wheel projects. I left the link for you below in the show notes. Let it dry and glaze the smooth mug next. In the last video, I applied this glaze to red clay. I'm looking forward to seeing how it looks on the white clay. Let it dry. Now glaze the textured mug. Pour the glaze on the same way. Let this dry and put them in the kiln to cone 5 with the 20-minute hold. Let's see how they turned out. This lid has a beautiful glossy pale pink color. The textured mug shows a nice contrast also. The blossom has a soft, shimmery look on the smooth surface. I love this color. You can see that when applied thinly on the bottom, the glaze produces a delicate pink hue. The inside of both of these mugs are smooth with the beautiful shimmery pink color. I like the contrast on the red clay, but I'm loving the color of this Flux Blossom on the white clay. These glazes turned out so beautiful, I don't know which one's my favorite. I love them all. The Midnight Run Flux glaze is a striking blue-gray. The glaze is lighter where it pools in crevices and darker where it breaks on edges, adding depth and dimension to the pieces. And overall, it looks great on both smooth and textured surfaces. The Moss Mist Flux glaze has such a smooth look on all 3 pieces. The glaze breaks over the edges on textured surfaces, producing that peachy hue where it pools between swirls. The green moss spots flowed down more on the top of the mug, creating that gorgeous effect. The Honeydew glaze has a beautiful shimmery light green color on smooth mugs, with a nice peach hue on the thicker areas. This glaze creates a nice contrast on the textured surfaces, with a lighter color on the edges. The River Birch glaze has a unique and cool appearance, which creates runny dark streaks that resemble a birch tree. This glaze also adds a natural feel to any piece. The spoon rest, creamer, and textured mug are impressive all by themselves. The Cirrus Flow glaze is a beautiful color. This light blue glaze interacts well with textured surfaces, creating a lighter shade on the raised areas. The glaze produces a nice smooth finish and is stunning on white clay with a shimmery light blue appearance. The Flux Blossom has a beautiful pale pink color with a transparent peachy color on the raised surface. The textured surface provides a nice contrast, and the glaze produces a delicate pink color. This gives you an idea as to how the glazes will turn out on flat, textured, and smooth surfaces when they're used on their own. Don't forget to check out the next video on layering these glazes, and hit the bell icon to get notified when the next video comes out. You watching helps me to make more videos like this one. Now head on over to testing the 6 new Amaco Flux Glazes video, or this 21 beginner glaze questions video. If you do, I get to play with more clay. Let's stay dirty.